Hi, welcome to my doll customizing journey. My name is Josephine and these are my creatures. After doing my puppet doll for Halloween, I decided to turn this idea into a series on my channel. I asked you guys on my community tab to vote for the character you would want to see next, and Foxy won with a landslide. So today I'm sharing with you how I made a Foxy doll. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications so that you don't miss out on future votings. Here are some images I collected. I want to focus on the pirate aspect of his character rather than the robotic part. I still want him to feel classy, so I'm trying to avoid the tacky and costumey part of a pirate. I did not have many male dolls in my stash, so first I had to buy a bunch of male dolls. I got 3 and one of them was this Heat Burns doll. I feel like his face mold was the best one out of all of them for Foxy. I started by removing his hair. I was prepared for a struggle, but his hair came out fine. I remove his face with 100% acetone and some cotton rounds. You can use Q-tips as well to get to the corners. To prep the body, I sand off the glossy layer. I want to retry changing the skin tone with MSC and pastels. I think Heat is a good base doll to try this out, because this yellow is not too far from a normal skin tone. I clean the body from the dust with alcohol. You can also use acetone-free nail polish remover. To start the color change, we first need to neutralize the yellow color. To do that, I use the opposite color of the yellow, which is purple. I did 6 layers of pastels and sealant in total. 2 of them were purple ones. After that, I did 1 layer with beige. Then the skin was looking too orange, so I did a layer of light gray blue to counteract the excessive warm tones. The last 2 layers were beige again. To save on my sealant, I started to lay down color on his face too. I started with eye whites and black shadows on his eyes. I also did a couple of lines to mark where I want the eyelid wrinkles to be. I also added blush. I wanted to experiment with placing the blush high on his cheek, kind of like the Japanese makeup trend of putting blush on your lower eyelid to make you look more cute. I don't know, I kind of like the effect it gives. After a fresh coat of sealant, I sketch the eyebrows with pastels. I deepen the lines with pencils and I add more details to his eyebrows with hair-like strokes. At this point, I was still thinking of giving him yarn hair, so I made his eyebrows very bright orange. I toned them down later with some acrylic paint. I decided to go with brown eyes. I was thinking of giving him green eyes, but decided against it because of his color palette. They would just jump out too much. I'm trying to give him kind of this smirking expression. I thought it would go well with his character. Last, I glaze the eyes and lips, and the face is done. Very distinctive characteristic of Foxy is his pirate hook. I decided to use wire and hot glue to create the hook. Then I'm painting it black to match the puppet doll, because I want this to feel like a cohesive collection of dolls. I did mention that I was planning on making the hair out of yarn, but I have forgotten that I still had this alpaca hair left, so I ended up using that instead. I use glue to make the wefts, and then I just use hot glue to fix the wefts in place. I use my iron to make the hair lay nicely. I want his hair to be kind of messy, so I'm not evening out the edges or anything. Next is the mask. I did embed a magnet in his head, but after I added the hair, the magnet didn't work anymore. Do not ask me why I put it there when on my puppet doll it was on her forehead. I don't know. A brain fart, I guess. I'm using air dry clay to cover my armature wire. Then after the clay is dry, I sand it. I use Magic Sculpt to detail the mask. I made separate teeth out of Magic Sculpt. This way I had more control when sculpting them. To make sure they stay in place, I used 2-part epoxy glue. I had a picture of Foxy on my phone so that I can reference it anytime I feel like I need it. Foxy is actually more red than he is orange, so I mixed this paint while referencing Foxy on my phone. I wanted the mask to be very accurate looking because I'm taking a lot of creative liberties elsewhere. The nose gets painted black and the teeth dirty white. I added a patch of black fabric onto his left eye. I didn't want to go with a full-on eye patch just because I used so much time sculpting the mask, and I think it would have made it look a little cheap. I seam ripped this cardigan to make a pattern for a jacket. I modified the pattern to make it look more like a jacket than a cardigan. I had a limited amount of this fabric, so I had to make the jacket a little shorter than I had planned. To prevent the fabric from fraying, I'm covering the edges with matte medium. Then I'm cutting the pieces out. I start with back center seam and then I move on to the shoulder seams and I sew the sleeve seams too. Next is the side seams and I also fix the sleeves in place. Next is buttons and buttonholes. I fix the buttons in place first and then mark where I need the holes to be. I sew along the edges of the buttonholes to prevent them from fraying. I distress the other sleeve with scissors and black paint. I add the paint all over the jacket to give it a worn look. Next is the collar. I ended up making most of it off camera just because it was so small and finicky. I make a white shirt from cotton fabric to go underneath the jacket. The shirt closes in the back with embroidery thread. I also make a ruffle and the collar of the shirt from the same piece of lace. To keep it in place, I add 2 pieces of black narrow ribbon. I do the same thing for his pants as I did for his jacket. I copied the shape of the existing factory clothes onto paper and then tweak them a little from there. I started with the side seams and then connected the pant legs together at the top. The last seam to sew is the inner leg seam. The pants also close at the back. I ended up adding a little piece of fabric because I didn't seam rip the velcro part, and that's why the butt area ended up not having enough fabric. Last thing to do is his shoes. I love making shoes and I do have to say these turn out pretty awesome. I start with a kitchen wrap and tape pattern that I transfer to paper. I use this light brown suede fabric that I know doesn't fray. I start with the trickiest seam that connects the tongue part, which is the part that comes upwards towards the doll's ankle to the quarter. I hope I have the names right. Trying to Google this was really hard, but I think you can understand better by just watching what I'm doing. I also connected the top part that folds over as well. And now I just need to sew the back seam closed. And now we have something that looks like a floppy sock missing its bottom. I put the fabric part of the shoe in place. Then I stick on the inner sole, that in this case is craft paper. I glue the sides down and then I add the outer sole, that is craft foam. I make a small heel out of the same stuff. I paint the soles black. If you want to make your life easier, I suggest painting the inner parts of the sole first before gluing it in place. I added a piece of fabric around his torso to add to the piratey feel. I do like his jacket, but looking at it now, to me it looks a little off. Like the shape and the color and the ruffle on his shirt is not quite how pirate outfits look like. I feel like the top part looks more like Pride and Prejudice Regency era, and the bottom looks like a musketeer. Reference pictures, and I wish I would have looked at them more when I started to work on the jacket instead of just going with my gut. Don't get me wrong, I really like the jacket, but I just feel like some of the details and shapes on it are a little bit off. And I used the most amount of time on the jacket, so I didn't want to redo it. What do you think? Can you see what I'm talking about, or do you just love him how he is now? Thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't yet done that and tap the bell while you're at it. Like this video and leave a comment. I would love to know what you think of my Foxy. Until next time, and stay safe, wash your hands and spend time at home. I hope to see you soon. Bye!